7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah, if you just come over a little step there. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Actually, I quite like that. Face is a bit dark. Focus on that. That's good. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, so that's what you're going to stay there. That's what you want. So you look like that.
Like Mike TV.
My TV.
Look, mine on TV.
You look a bit like my TV. Yeah, okay. Where can I get on there? About there. Yeah, okay. Cool. Yeah, alright. We are. Yeah, we're rolling. That's good. Yeah, so, I mean, what do you want to. And do you want to Steve or your tag name or.
Oh, do you know what? I think Boast will do it.
Yeah?
Yeah, Boast, yeah.
Boast, yeah?
Boast, yeah.
Alright, so, okay, so what I want to do, first of all, if I just grab, like, you say, right, my name is. Well, I'm Boast, and I'm. It's just like an introduction, really.
Mm-hmm.
So who you are.
Introduction to who I am.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whenever.
Yeah. Hello there. My name's Boast. I represent Graffiti Crew's All World Experts and Access All Areas. I've been involved in many things cultural-wise since maybe sort of like the mid-70s. Been a massive collector of anything 1980s, from clothing to BMX bikes to music, and been heavily involved in the English graffiti scene since 1983.
Okay, and tell me a bit about today. What's going on this weekend?
Well, this weekend we have the unique experience of the 20th anniversary of the first piece that was done here at the Lakeside Hall of Fame, also known as the Concrete Gallery. The first piece was done in August 1999 by myself, and since then the place has flourished to become known around the world. We've had people coming from many continents to represent their artwork and grace the walls, which I've been eternally grateful for.
Okay, yeah, right. Talk to me. Yeah,
Right, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how many people you had this weekend? What's the deal?
I think all told over the 2 days, and we are expecting people to come on the bank holiday Monday as well. We're sort of looking at about 30 people. Unfortunately, without realising it, we got Notting Hill Carnival this weekend. You know, folks with families, summer holidays, etc. So there we go. You know, I'm just grateful for whoever turned up, really.
So who are some of the names that are playing?
Oh, we've got people representing today. I mean, we've got some Essex legends. One in particular, Urge from the Arse Kickers crew, originally from East London, and was definitely a huge influence on a lot of up and coming graffiti artists in the late 80s and the early 90s. We also got another local lad from Southend, Wrights Brave. He does a hell of a lot of commission work, a lot of youth work, and just all round good egg.
Okay, tell me a bit about, because I mean, part of the film, we talk about kind of creativity and how places like Rom and skate parks have kind of, you know, have made a huge difference to people. You know, it's changed some people's lives in that they've got into, you know, any sort of arts thing. I mean, how did you get? How come you got into?
I think for myself and many other kids of my generation growing up in the 80s, or in the 70s as well, we were just thrill seekers, and it was just, you know, we was spoon fed a hell of a lot of stuff that come out of the States, and we just lapped it up. You know, we were a dry sponge, we become a wet sponge. You know, and we just lapped everything up. And I think that's just the sort of like the relation between certain youth cultures that the lines slightly blur, where some people's added what we call a dual or a trial sort of involvement. You know, as myself and like other lot of kids in the 80s had a BMX bike, rode that around. You know, and then we sort of by sort of 83, 84, we're getting a little bit more information come from the States. Buffalo Girls video, Dondi doing an outline of the Buffalo Girls piece, you know, a little article, this thing we got here in the Action Bike. Hold on a minute, let's find this. Where was that piece? See, March 85. So we've got Subway Art come out in 1984, but still in 1984 we hadn't seen a lot of English stuff, so that was a slight representative. Some people may argue, but there you go, that's that. But yeah, it was just one of them things that you'd just be riding around on your bike. Some might have a pen, some might have a spray can. You might have one yourself, you do a tag, but it was never really that serious until probably for myself, maybe the beginning of 85, when it was constantly, and that all I was living and breathing for was going out looking for graffiti, meeting other graffiti artists in different areas outside of where I grew up in South Ockenden. Because sort of beginning of 1985, everyone seemed to stop. It was like just a guillotine cut. Nobody was interested in BMXing, breakdancing, hip hop anymore. I was on my own, sort of thing. So that's kind of why I also invented just more than one tag. So even to this day, you meet people, you introduce yourself, and they go, "Oh yeah, what about blah 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 blah?" And how are they getting on? And I start laughing, and they go, "Fuck me, was that you?" And so you're getting a reputation for doing twice as much, 3 times as much work as anybody else, which a lot of people find. But there you go, I'm blowing my own trumpet. So,
And what's your job? What do you do? What's your day job?
I'm a carer. I do one-to-one care for disabled and mentally handicapped people.
And so do you think then that this is a sort of like a creative outlet for you?
Yeah, it is. It's where I give so much of myself to my job and the people I work for and support I give. There has got to be a point where I've got to become myself again, or one of many alter egos, you know, because I'm not only known for doing the graffiti, I'm known for producing music, producing film. You know, I've been a photographer's model, etc. So there's lots of things I've been involved in over the years that I'm known by many groups of people by many, many different names, you know. So someone could say, "Oh yeah, Boast," and they go, "I don't know what you're talking about." And then they'll say my real name, and then they go, "Oh yeah, and that's Muff Diver from Serious Problem, or that's Uniwide from the rap group," and all that kind of stuff. So it's, you know, I get involved. I like to get involved. Yeah, I'm all or nothing. Yeah.
That's great. That's really good. There's some really good bits in there because it's kind of dovetailing in some of the stuff that other people have said, like, you know, the about the creativity and how it's. So there's some really good lines which are in there. Really good.
Yeah, it's almost like when you say, just to take some of the guys from Pink Floyd, for instance, they were trainee architects, so they've already got that. There's a strong bond between art and music. So some people I've known that have been involved in music and then become artists, vice versa. But it's like a stick of rock. It runs straight through the middle. You know, you break it in half and there it is. It's there, you know, sort of thing. So I was a strong believer in that. Yeah.
I guess really, I mean, if you think like the 80s, like when we were kids, I mean, BMX was like, well, skateboarding first, wasn't it? Skateboarding was like totally new. Then BMX, and then graffiti. I mean, it was just such a new, there was nothing like that before. There was nothing before.
No, I mean, see, from the graffiti point of view, fortunate enough, one of my aunts, she spent a lot of time in New York in the 70s. So when she eventually came back, she had an absolute shed load of photographs, and some of them were taken on the New York subways. Now, the artwork caught my eye, but don't get me wrong, I didn't know what it was, and I did not understand it. I was 7, 8 years old, probably at the most. But it caught my eye. But at the same time, my other aunt, the younger sister to that one, was teaching me to do bubble writing. So something is linking together, but the dots ain't joining up yet. It's got to take a couple of more years for then something else to come along, for it to then become and start to make sense, you know. So.
And what about the fashion? Like the whole, I mean, that was a huge part, right? In the having the clothes on your bike. I mean, there was some weird. I mean, I remember riding around with a deerstalker.
Yeah, deerstalker hat and leggings, ankle leggings. Yeah, you know.
Hang on a sec. This is playing piano. Fix it. Noise out. Because there was like a hunt, wasn't there, for the clothes that people don't do now.
Well, see, that was the same thing as I'd say with the music. It's sort of what I'm sort of like known for as well is that at a really young age, I was getting on a train and going to like Hammersmith, or I was going to Soho, and I was hitting those record shops. You know, and at the time I was just known as a skinny kid with a big nose sort of thing who'd come and ask for some real fucking obscure track from California, some electro track, maybe the first Ice-T record that was ever made or something like that, for instance, you know. So, and also at the same time you are being influenced by your older mates and mates' older brothers and sisters that were way into their casual fashion, you know, and that was kind of like part and parcel of that thing that you just wanted to look the best. You wanted to be the bollocks. You was 14 years old, but you was riding around with a £300 bike between your legs and dressed like Bjorn Borg off a centre court, you know. I'll wait for that to...
Yeah. Get that a lot done now.
See, what you could also like attribute it to, we growing up in Thatcherite Britain, you know, and what Thatcher taught us was you be the best you can be, but use everyone beneath you as a stepladder, you know. But no, obviously we wasn't doing that as kids, but we was reflecting that, you know. So our parents drove around in nice cars and had nice houses. Some of them was fortunate enough, you know. So yeah, that was kind of the way those things bounced about, really, you know. But yeah, I do recall begging my parents for a good few weeks for a pair of them Diodora Borg Elite trainers, and having a little tumble over our little local skatepark and just ripping the whole toe box right out of the thing, and going home and my mum going, "Fucking hell, that's 35 fucking quid. That's next month's fucking phone bill up the road. Fuck, rush it. No more fucking pocket money for you for a month." And you're like, "Yeah, all right, mum, yeah." But yeah, it was very important, you know. And as we was, you know, with our little group from Southwark and then your little group from Grays, there was that little bit of one-upmanship, you know. Who could do the best trick with the best poise, elegance and dexterity, dressed in the best clothing, you know, with the best floppiest fringed haircut you could have got at the time as well.
Do you think, actually, going back to the whole Thatcherite thing, do you think like the graffiti was a bit of a sort of stem from that? The whole kind of...
See, it was all the freedom thing, and it was kind of like, I'll go forward but to come back sort of thing. And it was the same thing with football hooliganism. There was too much freedom. The authorities didn't like the fact that at any given moment we could decide for ourselves when we wanted to do something. So nowadays with football you have to plan months in advance. Nowadays with illegal graffiti, cameras, fencing that goes around prisons, the same sort of thing, motion detectors, etc, etc. So they've taken the freedom away from us. But that was the thing of going back to what I was going to say, which was the main thing for us was we were just running around lawless, but we wasn't horrible little fuckers at the same time, you know. It was a really early lesson I learned that the more please and thank yous and the more smiles you gave out, the further you got. You know, because hold me hands up, I was a bloody good shoplifter and I was a kid, and that's how I earned extra pocket money. So, and I was what was kind of described as like the triple threat. You know, I was nice, and I was white, and I was polite. You know, and I could walk in and walk out with things, and just people wouldn't even turn their heads and look at you. You know, so yeah, well, yeah, yeah. But that was the thing, the freedom side of it. It was also just. You know, there was, as well as there being 1,000,001 things for us to do as activities as kids to use all that excess energy that we had, there was also a little bit of a limitation. So to us it was a fuck you to the authorities, you know. So it was like, if your school teacher says you can't run in the corridor, well bollocks, I'm going to run in the corridor. And if someone eventually turns around in it, some of people of officialdom, and says you can't cross that fence and write your name on the side of that train, no bollocks to that, I'm going to write it 10 times now.
I mean, and that kind of, that authority, you think that sort of kind of finished with the whole rave thing was the last, to me, I think of, you know, the raves and then how they clamped down on them. That was like the end of the kind of 80s, wasn't it, beginning of the 90s?
Yeah, the rave scene was definitely that last stroke of real freedom before the authorities did eventually go, no, look, you've had enough, you've took the piss now. you've had enough. You know, they did it with football. They made it all ticket, all seater stadium, CCTV everywhere. They made it difficult for you to travel to away games independently from what would have been the official football trainers, as called, like the specials. And then the same thing with the graffiti. By the end of the 80s, there was a lot of real heavy hitters. British Transport Police had mopped up and nicked a lot of people. A good few people grasped on a lot of people as well, which got a lot of people caught. And also where in New York with graffiti, there was a mentor system. So by sort of like the early 80s, there were several generations going back to the late 60s, whether they were older brothers, cousins, friends, etc. And they were taught the pitfalls of, if you do this, you're going to get arrested. Well, as first generation graffiti writers out of England, we didn't know anything like that. So we'd have a wardrobe full of spray cans. Or these days, you'd get your paint for what you were going to do, and you're not going to be taking it home or leaving the train yard with it. But we did them sort of things in the 80s. We didn't wear gloves, we didn't wear balaclavas, and stupid enough to let people take photographs of us standing next to the train that we painted, catalogue posing without a balaclava on. So once a BTP come through your front door, you're well and truly nicked. Yeah, well and truly, yeah.
Going back to Rom, I mean, when do you remember when you first went there?
First went to Rom in '79. That was the first time, but I didn't go back, I think, until maybe the summer of '81, which was then when the OBMX magazine had come out, the predecessor to BMX Action Bike. So you're then seeing, because there was a few lads from Rylid and Southampton and a few older lads from Grays that had BMXs. So there was a little burgeoning local scene. Some of those were a good 2 and 3 years older than me, and they hung up their bikes by the time they hit 16. I'm just about 13, so it was kind of like, and then it was kind of like then your mates around you are starting to get bikes. So then you got your own little clique local, and then we started going, and then from 1981 onwards, Rom, it was solid for myself until probably about the end of 1984. I think one of the last things I attended was one of the first freestyle contests they did there. There's a photograph on BMX Action Bike of Billy Stupple doing a nice look back in the 4-leaf clover, and I am looking at the photographer standing next to Errol McLean. So if you dig that one out, you'll see us. I've got a green MA1 jacket on. But yeah, there's a lot of famous people in that thing. There's Pikey Paul, Chris Young's dad's Dave, bless him, God rest his soul, passed away. Yeah, there's a lot of people there, a lot of Rom locals, a lot of known folks and that there. But see, also, Matt, what I have to say as well is that I weren't only going to Rom. I was also going football. So every other week I was going to White Hart Lane to see Spurs play, the occasional away game. Yeah, but there was also like trips to Romford, trips to London, acquiring the latest bit of clubber, acquiring the latest rap record that was coming out of the East Coast or the West Coast of the States, you know. And yeah, it was, yeah.
So you really absorbed everything that time, didn't you? Really?
Yeah, I did.
Culture kind of.
Yeah, I did. I just, how can I explain it? I was a fucking thirsty dog with a bowl full of water, you know. I just lapped up everything. I was a sponge for absolutely everything, you know. I lived a 48-hour day and a 14-day week, you know. That's the only way I could describe it as a kid. It was like, my parents could never keep up touch with us because they'd come home and it would be the next little bit of slang language or the next reference point to something, and you would leave them dazed and amazed some days, you know, of them. And they still do it now, in their 70s, and they go, do you remember when you was into this? And you go, yeah, God, they were funny days. And you go, yeah, and remember when we had to order those trainers for you? I mean, yeah, for instance, I'll give you a prime example. The Van Doren company, Vans company, custom made vans. We found out about it in sort of tail end of 1981 into 82, and would send off mail order, but in those days you were looking at a good 4 to 6 months for your trainers to arrive. And I do recall one pair that I'd designed, because you could custom the material as well, suede, they were doing velvet, they were doing all sorts of crazy colours, crazy materials. Unfortunately, by the time this pair turned up, I'd grown a shoe size, so they ended up probably being sold on to a friend or maybe passed down to my little brother or something. But yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Hang on a sec. I just got that weird thing going.
Just to get a drink now, again, bit of that.
Yeah.
This is how I used to write in buildings.
What's that?
Bring back the magazine for continuity.
That's right. No, that's right. It's right. I kind of do cutaways and stuff, but that's good. That's good. That's really good. That's good. That's weird. The sound went a bit weird. It's alright, man. Just for a second. It's been that thing driving over. Wait, what's the with this what's the deal with? Do you talk about this place, like where it is, or not really? Do you kind of keep it pretty secret? Or what's the...
No, from doing the first piece down here, because at the time, there was a lot of spots in London that we were painting. There was one particular in Plaistow, and that was like well established, but the authorities started to clamp down on that as well. And a friend who's a keen cyclist, I literally got him to ride from what we call like ramp at the front to ramp at the back, and it was just over a kilometre. It was at just under a mile. So that was then how I was trying to sell it to people. But at the beginning, where it was only me just painting down here, I got a couple of local friends, Daz and Snag. So we started, and they were the first, like, the other two members of the AAA crew. So we did a few bits and pieces down here for a couple of years. Then I walked away from here from like health reasons. Came back in 2004, walked under this very same bridge, turned the first corner, and couldn't believe that people had painted that far up. Because when I first started painting down here, I was hiding way round the back. You know, this factory is overlooking us, and you did used to get Port Authority security walk up and down, so you had to be careful, you know, in the early days. I mean, there's really one funny occasion where I was painting on my own. A guy come along walking his dog, big German Alsatian, and said, yeah, it's all right, the dog's had its dinner. I went, looked down at the dog, I went, I had mine. But yeah, just jokes aside sort of thing. But yeah, I just think this place is absolutely amazing. And when I bring people here for the first time, they come over that first ramp under this little bridge or around the corner, you just look at their face, it's like, wow. But I do talk about this place because I'm quite proud of it, really, because it's my little gift back to the graffiti world, you know, because everything I'd ever done in graffiti was like everybody else, is take. You bunk your travel on the trains when we could get away with it. You stole your suppliers, you stole your food, you know, any opportunities of anything else you might have been able to steal along the day to get an extra earner, you did. As I say, we did it in a nice way, never in a violent, and I will say that, never in a violent way. But it was, yeah, I'll just always will speak about this place because I'm proud of it. I'm proud of the fact that there's a mile-long wall in a really, really relaxed environment. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've been down here where it's been knee-deep in snow, been down here when it's been torrential downpours, but I've enjoyed every single second of it, you know, because it's, like I say, it's, as I say, graffiti is take, and you don't really give a lot back. What you give back is your graffiti, your piece, your artwork that you leave behind. But for me to give this back, this is gold, you know. I can die a happy man, you know, because there's no intention to take this wall down at any time. And as long as us guys keep coming along and we trim the bushes, you know, I mean, there's more bush down here at the minute than 70s porno. I mean, I spent about an hour and a half yesterday hacking at bushes for some of the guys to paint, you know, so we could have some decent spots down here, because some of it is, it's getting a bit of a jungle down here, yeah. But I come round to, yeah, really proud of the place.
Cool, awesome. Yeah, no, that was great. Yeah, I think that was yeah, that was great. Definitely some gems in there for sure. Definitely.